One man is being victimized by our own government. One man whom they fear, yet whom millions love. One man who is willing to take the poison arrows of lawfare. One man whose voice has been taken away by a corrupt judge operating in a corrupt system. One man who has been ridiculed and insulted. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who stands between us and them. One man that wants to see America protected again. One man who wants to see America prosper again. One man who understands that a man is a man and a woman is a woman. One man who understands and protects the blessing of life. One man who wants to restore American exceptionalism. One man who once again wants to make America that shining city on a hill for all to see. A place where all the people of the world glowingly set their eyes upon. America. One man who unashamedly wants to make America great again. That one man is Donald Trump.
This is Fanfare with Barry Cunningham.
Happy Monday afternoon, everybody. Monday, the final week of July. It's a big week for me, as you guys may have known. I've got Ashley and the grandkids coming in tonight. They're flying in, so I got a really busy week, so I'm going to be doing a show every single day. I do have a night show tonight because they're not coming in till later, but the rest of the week there won't be a live night show unless it's really late. Unless I'm completely alone and they're sleeping and I'm up, then I'll do something maybe really late, but we'll see. In any event, I had put up a poll, and this poll says, who saw President Trump's press conference and meeting with Prime Minister Starmer from the UK this morning, and should I play it? 71% of you said to go ahead and play it. So let me preface this, because I don't want you guys to think, well, Barry just is making this easy for himself or anything. I'm going to show this press conference. I'll jump in here and there. But kick up, get yourself a cup of coffee, something to drink, make sure you're comfortable, because President Trump was epic this morning. He went on for nearly 90 minutes. I mean, it times out, I'm looking at it, at 1 hour and 21 minutes. So get comfortable. I'm going to play it, and then we'll do some actually, after he's done, then we've got to go ahead and we've got to do an interview at 2:30 with a good friend of President Trump. So we're going to let this run right up until the interview, and then in the interview, we're going to go ahead and talk to Bruce. So without further ado, welcome, everybody. I'm glad you guys are on. Let's listen to what President Trump had to say earlier this morning with Prime Minister Starmer, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, which incidentally, this is pretty interesting. Because of Brexit, Britain is no longer in the European Union. They are indeed in Europe, but they're no longer a part of the European Union. So he's not a part of the deal that was struck yesterday. That's why UK has their own deal. I'm not sure everybody knew that. But after what we've seen over the last couple of months, you're going to see the headline of my video is, Trump owns Europe. Let's not make any bones about it. The Democrats can scream and cry all they want, but this is what I said, and I said Trump owns Europe. I really feel that way at this point, is that they were completely, undeniably dominated in all of these negotiations. They had... In fact, I'm going to show you something. I'll wait. We'll show it to you. Let me get to this press conference because it's very long, and I don't want you guys to miss it. And I've got a hard stop at 2:30 because Bruce will be here at 2:30. So let's listen.
She said that the European nations are going to step up very substantially too.
What's your advice on the small?
To free speech today.
Well, free speech is very important. I don't know if you're referring to any place in particular. Perhaps they are, but.
We've had free speech for a very, very long time here, so we're very proud about that.
Well, what's your advice on the small boats crisis, Mr. President? How would you deal with it? What's your advice on dealing with the small boats crisis in this country? The small boats crisis.
It's about the boats coming over the channel, so we're taking a lot of action to stop people coming over the channel who shouldn't be here, stopping them coming in the first place.
Well, look, immigration is a big factor, and I think, frankly, if they're coming from other countries and you don't know who they are, and are they coming from prisons? We have them where they came in from prisons. We're moving them all out. We had a border last June, just recent, last month. We had 0 people come into the country, 0, other than come in through legal means. If you're stopping immigration and stopping the wrong people, I give my hats are off to you. You're doing not a good thing. You're doing a fantastic thing. So I know nothing about the boats. But if the boats are loaded up with bad people, and they usually are, because, other countries don't send their best. They send people that they don't want. And they're not stupid people. And they send the people that they don't want. And I've heard that you've taken a much stronger stance on immigration.
Yeah, we've done a lot of work stopping them coming. We just signed an agreement to return them, and we've returned 35,000, in fact, under the first year of this Labour government, of people who shouldn't be in this country. So we're very pleased that we're getting on with returning people who've got no right to be here.
That's great. As somebody that loves this, I love this country. My mother was born in, as you know, my mother was born in Scotland, and it's an incredible place, a beautiful place. And if that be the case, I congratulate you. That's exactly, because, Europe is a much different place than it was just 5 years ago, 10 years ago. They've got to get their act together. If they don't, you're not going to have Europe anymore as you know it, and you can't do that. This is a magnificent part of the world, and you cannot ruin it. You cannot let people come in here illegally. And what happens is there'll be murderers, there'll be drug dealers, there'll be all sorts of things that other countries don't want. And they send them to you, and they send them to us, and you've got to stop them. And I hear that you've taken a very strong stand on immigration, and taking a strong stand on immigration is imperative.
Mr. President, Prime Minister Netanyahu said there's no starvation in Gaza. Do you agree with that assessment?
I don't know. I mean, based on television, I would say not particularly, because those children look very hungry. But we're giving a lot of money and a lot of food, and other nations are now stepping up. I know that this nation is, right?
It's a humanitarian crisis.
Right.
It's an absolute catastrophe.
Do you think
nobody wants to see that, and I think people in Britain are revolted at seeing what they're seeing on their screens. So we've got to get to that ceasefire, and thank you, Mr. President, for leading on that, and also to just get more and more aid in. And again, America's done a lot on this. A lot of countries have done a lot. We're now working with Jordan on getting direct aid drops in, but this is a desperate situation.
Mr. President, do you think Israel has done all it can do to avoid civilian casualties in Gaza?
Well, I think nobody's done anything great over there. The whole place is a mess. It'll get straightened out, but it's a mess. They have to get food and safety right now. And ultimately, look, Hamas did a horrible thing, and they paid a big price, but Hamas did a horrible thing. But I always said, when you get down to the last 20 or 10, they're down to 20. We got a lot of hostages out, and you helped us, by the way.
Yeah.
But we got a lot of hostages out over the last 6 months that I've been in. I've been in office for 6 months now. And these hostages have been, many of them have come to the Oval Office, and they thanked me so profusely. I said, you don't have to thank me. I did what I have to do. But I always said, when you get down to the final 20, they won't release them, because that's like their shield. Very unfair. And so something's going to have to be done. And they were really unwilling to talk. But I've said that. You'll get down to the final 10 or 20. It turns out to be 20. I thought that would be the number. I said, they're not going to be dealing with us. And, many of the hostages are now dead. You know that. And parents come up to me. A woman came up to me 2 weeks ago. She just wants her son back. And I said, how's he doing? My son's dead, sir, but he's with them, and we want the body. She wanted the body of this young boy, of her young, beautiful son, just as much as if he were alive. It was just as important. There was no difference. And it's a tragic situation, frankly. But we got a lot out, and now possibly the fight will have to be a little bit different. But they have totally changed now. They don't want to give hostages. Very unfair. You have 20 living people. In this case, living. You have many dead people too that they want to get
a long time as well.
Yeah, they have 20 living people, and I told Israel, I told Bibi that you're going to have to now maybe do it a different way.
Do you think a ceasefire is even possible, Mr. President?
Yeah, a ceasefire is possible, but you have to get it. You have to end it. You're talking about with Israel. You're talking about there, because we have many ceasefires going on. The whole world is. If I weren't around, you'd have right now 6 major wars going on. India would be fighting with Pakistan. You see what we just did yesterday with 2 nations that we're trading with. And during the trade, I said, I'm not going to do any trade deal unless you guys settle your differences. And we got it settled in 24 hours. I mean, they just announced it was settled, which was a tremendous thing. But Serbia, Kosovo is another one. We have many hotspots that were at war. I think a very big one was India and Pakistan, because you're talking about 2 nuclear nations. That was a very big one. And we get help from the UK. The Prime Minister's help. We have cases where we specifically need the help because somebody comes from here that you're aware of. And, when you come from a country, you can do things. And I call up the Prime Minister, and all of a sudden, he's able to do things. True also with other presidents and prime ministers. But we've done it. Nobody's ever done what we've done. We have 6 different major if you take a look at Rwanda and the Congo, Republic of the Congo, they've been fighting for 31 years, 8 million people dead. It was going on. Nobody could go to that part of Africa. They were being killed. If to even walk there, you're being killed with machetes. And it was a violent situation. And I was able to, they liked Trump. They wanted to make a trade deal with Trump. They wanted us to take their rare earth. They want to give us their rare earth. And I got to know the leader of the Congo. I got to know both of them indirectly. And I called them. I said, let's end the war. I don't want anything until you end the war. And we ended the war. As you know, the foreign ministers came up 2 weeks ago, and the leaders are going to be coming very shortly to Washington, Rwanda and Congo. I mean, that's another one that we did. So we've done a lot. It's an honor to do it. It's not hard for me to do it. And I use, not in all cases, but I use a combination of knowing them a little bit, or in some cases knowing them a lot. I know, the leaders of Pakistan and India, I know them very well. And, they're in the midst of a trade deal, and yet they're talking about nuclear weapons. I say, this is crazy. So I said, I'm not doing a trade deal with you guys. And they want the trade deal. They need it. I'm not doing a trade deal with you if you're going to have war. And that's a war that spreads to other countries. You'll get nuclear dust. We'll all get nuclear dust. When they start using nuclear weapons, that stuff blows all over the place and really bad things happen. So maybe we're being a little selfish when we want to save wars too. But we stopped a lot of wars, and it's a great honor to have done it. Thank you all very much. We're going to be talking inside very much about Gaza and the humanitarian aspects of Gaza. Yeah.
Mr. President, what about Russia and Ukraine? You're talking about ceasefires for solutions.
I would have said 5 times we would have had a deal. I've spoken to President Putin a lot. I got along with him very well. But 5 times, and every time 4 times maybe. But we've had discussions. You and I have had discussions. Yeah. We thought we had that settled numerous times. And then President Putin goes out and starts launching rockets into some city like Kiev and kills a lot of people in a nursing home or whatever. You have bodies lying all over the street. And I say, that's not the way to do it. So we'll see what happens with that. I'm very disappointed. I'm disappointed in President Putin. Very disappointed in him. So we're going to have to look, and I'm going to reduce that 50 days that I gave him to a lesser number because I think I already know the answer what's going to happen. Okay? Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you later.
So, that wasn't the press conference. Just to let you know, unlike what you've experienced in the last 4 years, that was just the greeting. How are you? And he took a whole bunch of questions. That wasn't even the press conference. And the liberals wonder why people are like, you guys are toast, man. You put up a cadaver as president, and if he wasn't going to be the president, then you decided to run a cackling fool, and President Trump holds a press conference longer than any press conference that Joe Biden ever did before the press conference. That was like sound check. Going back to my musical days. Yeah, it's like, hey, well, okay, we're out here. Let me talk to some of you guys. Hey, what do you got? What do you got? All right, see you later. We're going to go inside and we're going to talk some more. We're tired of sitting out here. It's amazing, the stamina of this man and how he continues, and it's pretty wild. You guys have to admit it at this point. Let me go ahead right now and get this sponsor read in here because we're going to be here for another hour. As you guys know, cancer, diabetes, and of course the stuff from, we remember the jab, all of these things kill far less than the number one killer in the United States, which is heart disease. Heart disease causes 1 in every 4 deaths in the United States. That's 25% of all people who pass. Every 36 seconds, someone dies from heart disease. So what can we do about it? Well, Vitality from Brightcore, and you guys know Brightcore. We've been working with them for quite some time with their kimchi. Well, they've got Vitality now. It contains 7 powerful, clinically proven, and patented ingredients that work synergistically to naturally lower your blood pressure. They balance cholesterol and also blood sugar. It improves circulation and it strengthens overall cardiovascular health. We put a lot of miles on our heart, just like our cars. And every capsule of Vitality is just like turning back the odometer on your system. Anyone with high blood pressure or high cholesterol, anyone who wants to balance their blood sugar, or anyone with a family history of heart disease should be taking Vitality every day. And I had a cardiologist on last week or so who was explaining to you all the different things and how you can have better heart health. He's actually going to be my cardiologist. Found out he has an office here in Boca. That's fantastic. Vitality is non-GMO, all-natural, dairy-free, gluten-free, and 100% made in the USA by a company that truly believes in wellness and integrity. Right now, you can get 25% off with the code Barry at mybrightcore.com/iHeartBarry. But for an even better deal, if you call them at 888-418-6738, you get up to 50% off, free shipping, and even a free bottle of vitamin D3 with your order. Trust me, you guys want to call these people. They're going to give you more information than just ordering it online. They really know their stuff about health, and they will make sure that this product is right for you. Again, that number, as you see on the screen, is 888-418-6738. All right, so I want you to settle in. That, as I said, that was sound check. That was just President Trump going in there and just getting a lather up, just figuring out, hey, listen, what do I got to do just to get this thing going? And so I'm going to put on the actual press conference. Let me cue it up right now. All right, so let's see where we go here. Give me 3 seconds. All right, if you guys have any questions, here we go. This is very, very interesting. And of course, the reporters can't help themselves. They have to be drama queens to talk about anything other than what he is kicking butt doing. And I'm going to talk to you about some advertising that they did as well. Not even ads. Yeah, I guess you can say ads. And how the left is just freaking out. Have you seen the Sweeney video? The Sweeney commercial? Sydney Sweeney for American Eagle? Oh, they're freaking out about that too. Oh, it's amazing. All right, let's continue.
Scotland, and fantastic to be here at Turnberry with you. Thank you so much for showing us around and having this opportunity to sit in this fantastic ballroom, which is absolutely incredible. and to start talking about some of the issues that are most pressing in your country, in my country, and in particular, we've had the opportunity to talk about the situation in Gaza and the intolerable situation, including images of starvation. And I think both of us know that we have to get to that ceasefire, and we have to increase humanitarian aid in. And thank you for what you've already been doing, are doing, and committed to, because without you, this would not be capable of resolution. And I think that if we can work not just on the pressing issues of the ceasefire, but also on this issue of getting humanitarian aid in at volume, at speed, and then we've discussed a plan for what then happens afterwards. I think we can do our very best to alleviate what is an awful situation at the moment. So thank you very much for the discussion we've had so far and the discussion we're about to continue on that really important issue. But it's fantastic to be here. Thank you for your hospitality and to see this amazing golf course. I'll invite you to a football ground at some stage and we can exchange sports.
It's been great being with you, and thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister. And you've done a fantastic job with regard to the trade deal. You know, they wanted a trade deal here for years, many years, through many different terms with different people, and you got it done. So I want to congratulate you on that, and it's a great deal for both. It brings unity. We didn't need unity, but it brings us even closer together. I think it's good for both parties. We also discussed, obviously, Gaza, and I think before we get to phase 2, which is, what's going to happen afterwards, we want to get the children fed. We made a contribution a week ago of $60 million, all going into food. We only hope the food goes to the people that need it, because so much, as you know, when you do something there, it gets taken by Hamas or somebody, but it gets taken. But and we're prepared to help. We want to help. It's a terrible situation. The whole thing is terrible. It's been bad for many years, but it's great to hear you feel the same way that I do. We have to help on a humanitarian basis before we do anything. We have to get the kids fed. So we've been sending in a lot of food. A lot of the food that's been going there has been sent by the United States. I spoke yesterday with the president of the European Union, Ursula, who was terrific also on the subject, and she's going to play a big role also in helping us. So we have a good group of countries who are going to help with the humanitarian needs, which is food, sanitation, and some other things. It's very difficult to deal with Hamas, as I said. We got a tremendous amount of hostages out, but it would take place in drips and drabs. You'd get 10, you get 5, you get 2, you'd get 10, 12, we get 12 one time. Many of them would come to the White House, and they were so thankful. But I always said, when you get down to the final 10 or 20, you're not going to be able to make a deal with these people because they use them as a shield. And when they give them up, they no longer have a shield. And the people of Israel feel so strongly about the hostages. Some people would take a different view, but they feel so strongly about the hostages. So that's an ongoing process. Hamas has become very difficult to deal with in the last couple of days because they don't.
All right, so I've seen a couple comments I just wanted to address. No, it's not a repeat. He just stating the same thing again that he did in the preamble. This is a different, they went after they did the outside press conference, then they walked in and they're starting a new press conference. So no, it's not a repeat. It's actually a rebroadcast of the press conference he did early this morning. 72% of the people in the chat said they have not seen it, so that's why we're playing it. In addition, some people are like, where's Barry? Barry's here. And then I saw this comment as well, which is, you should have your head on the right side. I'm not like some of these other guys. I don't need for my head to be there as President Trump's talking. People are listening to President Trump. I don't need to have my picture in here while the president's talking. Okay, it's kind of stupid. So I don't do that. I let the president talk. That being said, now you know, and you can tell other people who may ask. So let's continue.
I want to give up these last 20. because they think as long as we have them, they have protection. But I don't think it can work that way. So I'm speaking to Bibi Netanyahu, and we are coming up with various plans. We're going to say it's a very difficult situation. If they didn't have the hostages, things would go very quickly. But they do, and we know where they have them in some cases, and you don't want to go riding roughshod over that area because that means those hostages will be killed. Now, there are some people that would say, well, that's the price you pay, but we don't like to say that. We don't want to say that. And I don't think the people of Israel want to say that either, which is pretty amazing. A lot of people would say, just get it done and whatever it is. You could also say speed might be better for the hostages. You go through, with speed, you may have a better chance because they're in deep trouble. They're in deep trouble. You saw October 7th, and you saw what the damage and the horror that they committed. People can't forget that. They tend to forget it, but they can't forget. That was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. And you just cannot forget that. So we're very much involved. The Prime Minister's involved. I'm involved. And I think I can speak. We just signed a very big trade deal, the biggest of them all yesterday, right? And the European Union is very much involved in wanting to help with the Palestinians in terms of getting people fed. But the area of Gaza, another way of defining it is the area of Gaza. It's a very troubled place, and it has been for many, many years. It has been for many decades. So it's not like this just happened. This has been going on for a long period of time. So that's it. Our hearts are in the right place. We have some good news because the recent war that you just saw, they just announced, I see, the newest of the 5, now this would be 6 that we've stopped. I've stopped 6 wars in the last, I'm averaging about a war a month. But the last 3 were very close together. India and Pakistan and a lot of them. Congo was just, and Rwanda was just done. But you probably know, I won't go into it very much because I don't know the final numbers yet. I don't know. Numerous people were killed, and I was dealing with 2 countries that we get along with very well, very different countries from certain standpoints. They've been fighting for 500 years, intermittently, and we solved that war. You probably saw it just came out over the wire, so we solved it through trade. I said, I don't want to trade with anybody that's killing each other, so we just got that one solved. And I'm going to call the 2 prime ministers who I got along with very, very well and speak to them right after this meeting and congratulate them. But it was an honor to be involved, and that was going to be a very nasty war. Those wars have been very, very nasty. So we've done a lot of good work. We've had great support from the Prime Minister anytime we needed help, anytime we needed any form of support. You've been there. We appreciate it very much. And we're going to continue onward. We do have to take care of the humanitarian needs at what they used to call the Gaza Strip. You don't hear that line too much anymore. You don't hear the Gaza Strip. But it is the Gaza Strip, and it's amazing that it's not being handled a little bit differently. We're going to set up food centers, and we're going to do it in conjunction with some very good people, and we're going to supply funds. And we just took in trillions of dollars. We got a lot of money, and we're going to spend a little money on some food. And other nations are joining us. I know your nation's joining us, and we have all of the European nations joining us, and others also have called, and they want to be helpful. So we're going to set up food centers and where the people can walk in and no boundaries. We're not going to have fences, and they can't. They see the food from 30 you would say yards away, and they see the food. It's all there, but nobody's at it because they have fences set up that nobody can even get it. It's crazy what's going on over there. So we're going to work very closely together with your country, a great country. We also discussed inside that we are, there's a whole new thing happening with regard to energy from nuclear. And the Prime Minister's looking at that very strongly, and I know you have Rolls-Royce nuclear plants. That sounds pretty good, right? I love that. What a great brand that is. But you're also doing the Rolls-Royce or the nuclear plants, the smaller plants. We're doing smaller and bigger, but the small is interesting. They do a small plant, very easy, very safe, and as they need more, they hook up another plant, and they have a series of plants instead of, doing the $20 billion plant. That gets tough for a lot of people to do. So we're just studying that, and it sounds like you're very far progressed, but that's a great thing you're doing on nuclear. We opened up nuclear about 2 months ago, and it's now safe and very inexpensive.
No, we see civil nuclear as a big part of the future as we go to sustainable, independent energy. And I think that between the two of us, we can work very much more closely on this. And we've agreed that that's our ambition, our aspiration. And this is going to be a big part of the future when it comes to energy. And you can see in the last few years, energy has been weaponized. Prices have dictated both families and businesses across the United Kingdom, and therefore taking control of energy is a huge prize. So the more we can work together on this, the better. And small modular reactors are a very big part of the future here, and we've got great companies like Rolls-Royce involved in that. So I'm very much looking forward to working together with you, Mr. President.
We'll do that. We'll do that. We're going up to your oil capital in a little while. We're going up to Aberdeen. That's called the oil capital of Europe. And that's a great asset that you have up there someday. If they ever change their thinking on that, you have a great and valuable asset. There's a lot of valuable resources underground there. But that's a decision for you to make. But it's a very amazing place, and it is considered the oil capital of Europe. So it's another option that you have. So we are doing really well as a country, and I think that the Prime Minister he's been so supportive of us and so strong and so respected. And I respect him much more today than I did before because I just met his wife and family. He's got a perfect wife and and that's never easy to achieve, right? But
I take no credit for that.
He's become a friend. And together we got a deal done that has not been able to be done. It was a deal that's very good for both parties.
A really good deal for both of our countries, and very, very well received here in the United Kingdom.
So thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Mr. President, I just want to follow up on Russia. Earlier you said that you were going to change the deadline from 50 days. So what is your new deadline? What
I'm going to make a new deadline of about 10 or 12 days from today. No reason in waiting. There's no reason in waiting. It's 50 days. I want to be generous, but we just don't see any progress being made.
Mr. President, on Gaza, you just talked about setting up food centres in conjunction with other organisations.
Right.
You're talking about the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation or recognised aid agencies. How will this work?
Well, it's going to be working with the United States. We'll be helping with the food. We have a lot of access to food. We got a lot of food ourselves, and we're going to bring it up. Make sure that they don't have barriers stopping people. You've seen the areas where they actually have food, and the people are screaming for the food, and they're 35, 40 yards away, and they won't let them because they have lines that are set up. And whether they're set up by Hamas or whoever, but they're very strict lines, so we have to get rid of those lines. But we're going to be getting some good, strong food. We can save a lot of people. I mean, some of those kids that's real starvation stuff. I see it. And you can't fake that. So we're going to be even more involved. We did some airlifts before, some airdrops, and the people are running for it. And the Prime Minister is going to help us. They're very effective with that. You've done that before, and for many, they've done that for 100 years very well. So it's not very hard to do, actually.
Mr. President, you say you love Scotland. You're the most Scottish president ever in the White House. Is there a better deal to be done for Scotland, for Scottish industry, in the deal that you've done with the Prime Minister? Whisky, for example.
Well, I have great love for Scotland. My mother loved Scotland, and she loved the Queen. I don't know. I might hurt myself by saying that the monarchists are going to like it. Some other people would. But she loved the Queen. Whenever the Queen was on television, she wanted to watch. And she would come back religiously. She'd come back to Scotland once a year with my sister Marianne, primarily, and sometimes my sister Elizabeth also. But they love this part of the world. And, you know, we're talking about the Isle of Lewis. We're talking about serious Scotland. That's serious Scotland. There was no doubt about it. So, yeah, it gives me a feeling, you know, it's different. You go to another country, you have no relationship to it. You got to like maybe the head of the country or something. But it's different when your mother was born here, Stornoway. Right in Stornoway, a beautiful little place.
So is there a better deal to be done? Is there a better deal to be done for Scotland, for whisky, for example? Because of your love of Scotland, is there a better trade deal to be done for Scottish businesses like whisky?
Well, I assume when we do our trade deal overall, a lot of it comes to Scotland, I hope. Maybe all of it should go to
It's
Scotland.
It's a very good deal for the whole of the United Kingdom. We've already achieved great things under the deal, and we'll achieve even more as we work together.
Mr. President,
A lot of it is going to Scotland. I mean, I do know that, but I mean, we're dealing with the UK. But a lot of it comes to Scotland. And, you know, I was very particular. This is a part of the world I want to see thrive. It's going to thrive.
Mr. President, back to Gaza. You talk about Hamas stealing food and stealing aid. What responsibility does Israel have for limiting aid to the region? And if I could ask a follow-up to the Prime Minister, what pressure can be put on Israel? And is that something that you and the United States could work on together?
Israel has a lot of responsibility. They're hampered by the fact that you still have 20 hostages or so. And the people of Israel are very concerned about the 20 hostages. It's very interesting. You could say they could be more concerned about retribution than the 20 hostages, but they really want the 20 hostages to survive and live to make it. You know, many of the hostages came to my office in the Oval Office, and I was amazed I would ask them the question, was there any sign of love? Was there any sign of, when you were a hostage and you have all of these people from Hamas around you, sometimes hundreds, sometimes 10, sometimes 2, but you're a hostage and you're being stored in a pipe. It's not even really, a cave, or it's a pipe, a little pipe. And some said they didn't think they were going to make it because they were losing air, there wasn't enough air, and they'd open up the pipe just in time, but they didn't do it on purpose. They just happened to open it. They got lucky. But I said, did they ever wink at you and say, like, don't worry, you're going to be okay? Did they ever give you some extra food, even if it was a piece of bread? Did they ever give you anything during that time? And some were there for 400 or 500 days now, right? That's a long time, a year and a half, more than that. And not one person said there was any love from anybody. You know, in other words, you have hundreds of people. And you see it in the movies where somebody's a prisoner and somebody's helping. You even see it with Germany, where people would be let into a house and live in an attic in secret. You know, you see signs of stuff. I said, did you see anything like, did they wink at you? Did they say, don't worry, you're going to be okay? I asked that question all the time. I've never received one answer that said, yeah, they really wanted to help. No, the hatred is just incredible.
But, sir, on the access to food issue, what more can Israel do? And again, to the Prime Minister as well.
Well, I think Israel can do a lot. I will say that Iran, I think, interjected themselves in this last negotiation. Can you imagine the beating they took? We wiped out their nuclear possibilities. They can start again. If they do, we'll wipe it out faster than you can wave your finger at it. We'll have to do that. We will do that gladly, openly and gladly. They've been saying, Iran's been sending out bad signals, I'll tell you. For a country that just got wiped out, they've been sending very bad signals, very nasty signals. And they shouldn't be doing that. They shouldn't be doing that. They were talking about things that they shouldn't be talking about. They were interviewed on a recent show, and the foreign minister saying things that he shouldn't be talking about, shouldn't be saying. And I think they got involved in this negotiation, telling Hamas and giving Hamas signals and orders, and that's not good. That's not
Prime Minister,
I would say that we need to get the hostages out. They've been held for a very, very long time, and we must always start from there. But also recognise the situation on the ground in Gaza is absolutely intolerable, and I think that certainly speaking for the British public and myself, those images of starving children in particular are revolting, and there's a sense of revulsion in the British public at what they're seeing, and they know, and we know, that humanitarian aid needs to get in at speed, at volume. Yes, some can be airdropped, and we're working with others, with the US, with Jordan on that, but the trucks need to get in, because that's the only way you can get the volume in. And we do thank the President for the work he's done to try to get to a ceasefire, which we desperately need, but also to put aid in to the region. There needs to be much more of that. We need to galvanise other countries in support of getting that aid in. And yes, that does involve putting pressure on Israel, because it absolutely is a humanitarian catastrophe now. We also need to look beyond that situation to what then happens in the event of a ceasefire, which is desperately needed. And that's why I'm really pleased that we're having a discussion about what a peace plan would look like after that, the component parts of that. And we have to be really clear at this point that Hamas can play absolutely no part in any future governance in Palestine, and and in Gaza. And it's really important that we're clear about what triggered this, who took the hostages, and bringing out the passport after the terrorist organisation. But I think today the focus has to be on getting that humanitarian aid in.
Mr. President,
will the UK avoid your pharmaceutical tariffs?
I just wanted to make sure you guys know that's not me eating a bag of potato chips or anything. That's somebody near their microphone at the event that obviously was having some problems. So it's not me. I don't have a bag of chips or anything. Not opening some cookies. That was that was their fault, not mine.
Before August the 1st.
Well, we'll be announcing on pharmaceuticals sometime in the very near future. We have a very big plan on pharmaceuticals. We want to bring a lot of the pharmaceuticals back to America, where they should be. If you look at COVID, it sort of taught us a lesson. We were getting our pharmaceuticals from other countries. We almost didn't make any. We used to make them ourselves, and we're going to want to be making a lot of them ourselves, all of them in a sense. But you also have a good pharmaceutical business. We'll be dealing with you on pharmaceuticals also. And we certainly feel a lot better with your country working on pharmaceuticals for America than some of the other countries that were with the relationship we have. And you would not use that as a cudgel. You wouldn't be using it as a block. But we're going to be announcing sometime very soon, I think, pharmaceuticals are our whole thing. And the companies know. And drug prices are going to be coming down very substantially in the U.S., very, very substantially. And that'll happen very soon.
Mr. President, we can all sense your frustration with Vladimir Putin. Sorry, we can all sense your frustration with Vladimir Putin.
Yeah.
Do you think he has been lying to you about his intentions in Ukraine?
Well, I don't want to use the word lying. All I know is we'd have a good talk, and it seemed on, let's say, 3 occasions, it seemed that we were going to have a ceasefire and maybe peace, and you divide it up and you do whatever you have to do, that obviously to get to the end. And all of a sudden, missiles are flying into Kiev and other places. And I say, what's that all about? I spoke to him 3-4 hours ago, and it looked like we were on our way, and then I'd say, forget it, and I'm not going to talk anymore. You know, this has happened on too many occasions, and I don't like it. I don't like it.
Mr. President, you have a successful social media site. There are new powers here to censor your site, states mandates
to censor my site?
To censor your site and Twitter
Truth?
and Facebook.
Truth?
I mean Truth. Is that okay?
Well, I don't think he's going to censor my site because I say only good things. Will you please uncensor my site?
Yeah, we're not censoring anyone. We've got some measures which are there to protect children, in particular from sites like suicide sites. We've had too many cases in the United Kingdom of young children taking their own lives, and when you look through their social media, they've been accessing sites which talk about suicide and encouraging, if you like, children down that road, and that is what we want to stop. There's nothing about censoring free speech.
But that treats all adults like children.
This country is the proud...
But that can treat all adults like children.
Free speech in this country has been for a very long time. We're very, very proud of it. We will protect it forever. But at the same time, I personally feel very strongly that we should protect our young teenagers, and that's what it usually is, from things like suicide sites. I don't see that as a free speech issue. I see that as a child protection issue.
We actually passed a bill in Congress, headed up by my wife, actually, which was to pull bad stuff out having to do with children, because it is a problem. But I cannot imagine him censoring Truth Social. This is more of a very political, and it's been a very big success.
It's not going to happen.
And I only say good things about him and his country, so if they censor me, you're making a mistake. I'm going to give my ambassador the job, make sure it's not censored. I had not heard that.
Mr. President, question about golf?
You're a big investor in this area, Mr. President.
Say it?
You're a big investor in this area of Scotland.
To put it mildly. Like this ballroom that we built from scratch.
Do you worry, though, about the risk of increased taxes here? Will that stop you investing? And do you have a message last night on the soccer to the English Lionesses who won the European trophy?
So I think that I have a theory that low taxes bring growth. We just passed a big tax cut bill, the biggest bill in the history of our country, actually. And one big beautiful bill. I used to call it the great one big beautiful. We got the word great out, but it's actually called the one big beautiful bill. It's essentially a very large tax cut bill for everybody. And our country's pretty soon, I think I can say it right now, our country's never done better. We had a country that was dead. It was dead 6 months ago, a year ago. Leaders from NATO, we had a very successful meeting at NATO, your prime minister was there. It was an unbelievable love fest with all of those countries, and they agreed to go 5% and all the things. Very smart to do. But many of the leaders said, essentially, they said, your country was dead 1 year ago. 1 year ago, we had a dead, and we did. We had a dead country. We had a president who didn't know where the hell he was. We had horrible, horrible people running our country. I think they were sick people, actually, sick. You talk about censorship, those are big, that's all they did was censor, and they didn't know what to do. And they had high taxes. They wanted more tax, total censorship, transgender for everybody, men playing in women's sports, everything bad they wanted, and they still do. That's what they still do. That's why they're down at 15% or something, I saw today, the lowest that the other part of the Democrats have ever been. But no, I find that when you lower taxes, you get growth. I will say this area, the Prime Minister hasn't been here very long, on all fairness. I think he'll be a tax cutter. But I find that as we cut taxes, we did more business. In my first tax bill, we cut taxes from 39% down to 22%. And we ended up at the end of the first year, when it was still a little raw, we ended up taking in much more revenue than we did at 39%. It was pretty amazing. And we're taking in a lot of revenue right now, and this was an additional tax cut. So I find, for whatever it's worth, tax cuts are very good.
Mr. President, you moved up the deadline. It's now 10 or 12 days. Is the sanction the same that you're going to slap 100% tariff on anybody who does business with Russia?
So what I'm doing is we're going to do secondary sanctions, unless we make a deal. And we might make a deal. I don't know. You don't know. It's we've done so many peace deals. This is the one I started out with, and I know President Putin called me. He wanted to know if I could help him with Iran. I said, no, I don't need your help with Iran. I need your help with Russia. And so that's the one deal that continues to linger. And we're losing 5,000. They're losing. I'm not losing. You're not losing. But 5,000 Russian and Ukrainian kids a week are dying. And that's not mentioning the people that are dying also in towns where, he's lobbing missiles into certain towns like Kiev. And he's got to make a deal. It's too many people are dying. It's a really bloody war. And the 5 and down, they really tell me that number is obsolete. It's like 7.
That's terrible.
So you have 7,000 Russian and Ukrainian soldiers dying every single week for no reason whatsoever. So you would think, based on common sense, you would think he'd want to make a deal. We'll find out.
No communications, Mr. President, publicly. Have you had any other, through any channels, conversations with the Russians, reiterating this?
In what?
Reiterating this new pressure and deadline.
Yeah, and we're going to have well, you're the press. I'm reiterating it to you. I'd say 10 to 12 days. I'll announce it probably tonight or tomorrow. But there's no reason to wait. If you know what the answer is going to be, why wait? And it would be sanctions and maybe tariffs, secondary tariffs. You know what a secondary tariff is. And look, the Russian economy, I don't want to do that to Russia. I love the Russian people. They're great people. I don't want to do that to Russia. But this thing, they're losing a lot of Russians. They've lost 1 million Russians. And that's the, sons, that's the sons and daughters of Russian families. They leave the house, they go, bye mom, bye dad, and then they get blown away. And Ukrainian too. Look at Ukraine. It's a disaster what's happened there. But it continues to go on. As you know, we made a deal where the European Union is essentially involved, but it's NATO, and we're supplying weapons to NATO. NATO's now paying because the United States, because of Biden's in for $350 billion, the European nations are in for about $100 billion. It should be the opposite way, by the way, because we have a big ocean in between. It should be the opposite way. But I think that eventually something's going to happen. It should happen fast. So many people are dying. You know, when I settled out with Congo and Rwanda, they lost almost 8 million people. And it just made so much sense. And if I didn't get involved, they wouldn't have done it. They weren't even thinking about settling it. It was just going on forever. And nobody could go into those territories because they'd get killed. They'd get killed. And now they have I hear it's a whole different ballgame. We settled it. This is one that should be settled. Russia, Ukraine. This is one that really should be settled.
Mr. President, Scotland's First Minister has today set out his plans for a second referendum on Scottish independence. Can I get your reaction to that as someone with deep ties to Scotland? And, sorry, Mr. Prime Minister, can I also get your thoughts on that? If the SNP do win a majority at next year's election, then they have the right to hold a referendum, do they not?
Well, I don't want to get involved in your politics. We got enough politics of our own. I will say that I predicted what was going to happen the last time. You remember? I was opening the first course over at Aberdeen, and I was over here, and at the same time, and they asked me that question. I made a prediction. It was the day before the vote, and I made it correct. I like to be correct, but I made a correct prediction. I don't know. I do say that when they made that deal, somebody said that it was, and I remember this very distinctly, I said, could they do this all the time? There was a little bit of a restriction, like 50 or 75 years before you could take another vote. Because, you know, a country can't go through that too much. I don't know the First Minister, but I've heard great things about him. I've spoken to him. I hear very good things about him, and I'm meeting him today. So maybe I'll have a better opinion then.
And let me answer that straightforwardly, because I believe in a stronger Scotland, in a better United Kingdom. And I think that at a time like this, when it's quite clear that there's uncertainty and volatility around the world, the strength of the United Kingdom together is very important for all four nations, very important for Scotland. And that should be our priority, that should be our focus, not on the politics, which feels like the politics of yesteryear now, at a time like this. And I think that the First Minister should probably focus more on his delivery in Scotland than on his constitutional issues, and we might have a better health service in Scotland. But at a time like this, I think the United Kingdom is always stronger as four nations. I think that's better for all four nations. I think that's how Scotland is stronger. Look at the deal that we've been able to do with the United States, a really important deal that we made just months ago. That is what the United Kingdom can do when we act as a powerful set of four nations together, and there are very many other examples.
Mr. President, you toured the Federal Reserve last week, and they are set to meet this week. Do you think your visit has inspired a potential rate cut, or how do you see things shaking out this week?
Well, it's interesting. I did tour it. I toured the building.
Yes.
And if you looked at this building, if you came here like 14, 15 years ago, we've had it a long time. It's been an honor to have Turnberry. But I was on much more opulent walls, ceilings, floors. We had to do this. And we did a very great job. I mean, you see how beautiful it is inside. Everything was saved, everything was preserved. We had ceilings that were in bad shape, they were falling down. You know, it's very old, wasn't properly maintained. Now it's brand new and beautiful, and we saved everything. If you really think here, you took a look and you were sort of commenting the coloring. Now this is a brand new building, but if you look outside, it's equally opulent and beautiful, and we didn't do that by spending, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars in surrounding a railing underneath the area that you're painting. I mean, I've never seen that. Brand new, beautiful plywood, very expensive, wrapped around a figurine or a railing to preserve it. But you don't have to do that. You can just wrap a cloth, they call it a blanket, and you don't even have to do that if you're careful when you're doing the ceiling. But I don't know what they did. They'd take down a ceiling and put up a new ceiling, and the new ceiling had no opulence to it, or they'd fix the ceiling. But I would say that all I need is a good plaster and a can of paint. And, you know, they spent $3.9 billion, and I spent a lot of money too, but it's I'd say 3.8 billion less, you know, meaning I spent probably $100 million making this place incredible.
And you were saying a lot of that was local trades.
I used local trades.
Windows, I think, in the next room.
I had local trades do a lot of this. We have the most opulent windows next door, and I had a choice. Do I take them out? And, you know, they've suffered through 125 years of storms. You have very big storms in this area. When you have a storm, you have a storm. And they made it, barely, but they were in bad shape. So I had some local people come up, and we looked at them. You have some great craftsmen here, I think is what you're getting at. And they said, sir, honestly, they've had it. We can copy it and do it much better. And they did. If you take a look at the windows in the various dining rooms, they're magnificent, and they're new, and they're much better looking than what was there. Same exact look, other than a much higher quality.
But do you foresee a rate cut?
And they're local people. I use a lot of your local people. You have really great local tradesmen here, yes?
But do you foresee a rate cut this week? Do you expect the Fed...
A rate cut?
Yeah, do you expect
meaning a tax cut?
No. Do you expect the Fed to cut rates this week?
I think he has to. You had 11 cuts, you know? In Europe, they had 11 cuts. In other places, they had 10 or 11 cuts. And we had none, but I'm not going to say anything bad. You know, we're doing so well, even without the rate cut. With the rate cut, it would be better. It affects our housing a little bit. Look, we should be 3 points lower. Each point is $360 billion. Can you imagine that? That's big numbers. Each point, 1 point of cut, is the equivalent of $360 billion in savings. That's big stuff, you know. Those are big numbers in the U.S. Everything's big. He should cut. A smart person would cut. You know, he leaves very soon, so it's like one of those things, but I'll miss him greatly.
Who will you appoint?
On Turnberry, if I may, have you or will you enlist the Prime Minister in your effort to bring the Open back to Turnberry? And Prime Minister, you described this beautiful course. Do you agree with the President that it's time to bring the Open back to Turnberry?
Well, as you know, that's not a matter directly for me. That's for the sporting authorities. But look, I mean, it is the first time I've been here. It's absolutely magnificent, both inside and out, and looking at the courses itself and the building. It's incredible. But the decision on the open is not a decision for me, as you'll understand. I should just pick up on the earlier question, because I for one will say congratulations to the Lionesses. Last night our women's football team won the Euros, defended the Euros, I should say, which was a really big success, and the mental and physical resilience that they showed was quite incredible. So there's a lot of bunting out today and tomorrow to celebrate them, bring that cup home.
Is it the chance to do any planning for the upcoming state visit, and how is that going to work? Where would you stay, and anything about this?
Well, I'm looking forward to it. It's never been done before, twice. We had our original at Buckingham Palace, and now I guess we're going to Windsor. And it's never been done, and I'm a big fan of King Charles. I've known him for quite a while. A great guy, great person. He looks really well to me. He looks great. So we look forward to coming over. It's going to be, it was one of the most beautiful evenings I've ever seen. I hate to say it, but nobody does it like you people in terms of the pomp and ceremony. And I look forward to being here with the ambassador. Our ambassador is a very, very successful man who just wanted to do this. And I said, how are you going to be able to do that? And he's so committed to, the relationship between the countries. But he's a very great guy and a very, very successful man. So I very much thank you for doing this.
Thank you for the honors.
Mr. President, after your state visit, will you go to London, or are you worried it's no longer welcome?
About what?
Will you visit London during the state visit, or are you worried?
I will. I'm not a fan of your mayor.
Why not?
I think he's done a terrible job, the mayor of London. But a nasty person.
Are you worried?
I think he's a friend of mine. No, I think he's done a terrible job. But I would certainly visit London. Yeah.
Would you want Parliament to be recalled? So MP Nigel Farage has asked for Parliament to be recalled when you're there, so you can talk to the MPs.
Well, I like Nigel. I mean, Nigel, as you know, is a friend of mine. Nigel's done very well. He's a friend of mine. And Keir's a friend of mine.
Would you recall Parliament so that the President can talk to MPs?
Well, Parliament's in recess at the time, but look, I do want to be clear. This is an unprecedented and very special state visit. This has never been done before. There'll be many elements of it that have never been seen before. So this is going to be a historic occasion, and we're all very much looking forward to it. And I was very, very pleased to be able to put forward the invitation when we were at the White House earlier this year. So this is not just a state visit. They're always incredible occasions, and this is an unprecedented second state visit, so you can imagine just how special that's going to be.
The fact that it's never been done before, and that's because it's non-consecutive, and it's the only reason it could be, made it even more interesting, frankly. So it's going to be great. And being with Charles and Camilla and everybody I've gotten to know because of 4 years and now 6 months. Gotten to know a lot of the family members. They're great people. They're really great people. And in that sense, I think that the UK is very lucky. You can have people that weren't great people. I don't know if I'd say that, but you could have people that weren't. But
we're very lucky to have our royal family. They're absolutely fantastic.
So we really look forward to that. As far as Parliament, if he wants me to speak in Parliament, I'll do it.
Okay.
But it doesn't have to be that. It could be some other time. Maybe we should save it for another time. We'll let the one visit speak for itself. But anytime, if I could be helpful, I would certainly do it. Thank you.
Mr. President, on Gaza, what kind of alternatives are you considering to get the hostages out if there's no ceasefire deal?
Well, there are a couple of alternatives. Some are pretty strong, but the most sensible alternative is talk and negotiation. But I said a long time ago, at a certain point, they're not going to be talking because they're going to lose their shield. The hostages are a shield for them. They did horrible things on October 7th. And the hostages are a shield. And I said, you're going to get down a number, and the number is going to be at a point where you're not going to be able to get them back unless you're going to be very energetic, or to put it a different way, unless you're going to be very ruthless and violent. It's a bad situation to be in, very bad.
Mr. President, back to Russia. You talked during the campaign about President Putin respecting you and that helping you have a relationship with him. Do you still feel that way, that he respects you, considering the conversations you've had that have been really nice, or is he being disrespectful?
I've always gotten along with President Putin. I've had a great relationship with him. And he went through the Russia hoax, too. You know, I mean, it was... we used to talk about it. We used to say, you know, it's too bad we really can't do anything between our country. Because if we did, they'd say, oh, it's, you know, some... Look, I was tough on Putin because I was the one that closed up Nord Stream, and Biden came along and opened it up. I was very tough on Putin in one way, but we got along very well. And I never really thought this would happen. I thought we'd be able to negotiate something out. And maybe that'll still happen, but it's very late down the process. So I'm disappointed. And, you know, the funny thing is that their economy isn't that big, and it's having a hard time right now, but it's a relatively small economy. A strong military, but strong economy. And it used to be a strong economy, now it's not. He's gone through a lot. Economically, it's not easy, but it's pretty small. You know, compared to that magnificent size of that land. The land is massive. It's got, I guess, 9 time zones or something. It's a massive piece of land. Russia could be so rich. It could be so rich. It could be thriving like practically no other country. And they're holding that back because we can't. He wants to do trade deals with us. He talks about it all the time. He wanted to. And I envision that, a lot of trade with Russia. They have a lot of valuable things. When you talk about rare earth, they have serious rare earth, right? They have just about every form you can have. So, you know, Russia could be so rich right now. Instead, they spend all their money on war. They spend everything on war and killing people, and it doesn't make sense to me. I thought he would want to end this thing quickly. I really felt it was going to end, but every time I think it's going to end, he kills people.
Could a meeting help, and are you considering, has been proposed to meet in Turkey in August?
I'm not so interested in talking anymore. He talks, we have such nice conversations, such respectful and nice conversations, and then people die the following night with a missile going into a town and hitting, I mean, recently, I guess, the nursing home, but they hit other things. Whatever they hit, people die. So, Adam.
We've just had a sense of your differences in political persuasion when Nigel Farage and Sadiq Khan came up in conversation. I wonder if you have any advice, either of you, for a very divided, polarized world on how you make your relationship work.
Not differences, not differences. I happen to like both men. I like this man a lot, and I like Nigel. And, you know, I don't know the politics over here. I don't know where they stand. I would say one is slightly liberal, not that liberal, slightly, and the other one is slightly conservative. But they're both good men.
Prime Minister,
I mean, we like each other, we respect each other, we get on, and we've both got a great love of our countries, of our families, and therefore there's a huge amount that we have already achieved actually together and will achieve as we go forward, leading our respective countries, and of course the relationships between our countries. Donald, we were talking about this morning. That whether it's defence, security, intelligence sharing, it's a close historic relationship. We have fought together in the past. We've always stood together. And I, for one, am very pleased that we've got such a good personal relationship between us. And I think it just shows that even if you come from different political perspectives, different backgrounds, actually there's a huge amount of common ground when it comes to what is in the best interests of our two great countries, and they are two great countries. And I think that because we focus on what's best for our countries, we get along very well, and I'm very pleased that that's the case.
Mr. President, your Treasury...
You know, he wants to cut taxes as much as he can, and, you know, politics is pretty simple. It's, I assume there's a thing going on between you and Nigel, and it's okay, you know, it's two parties. But generally speaking, the one who cuts taxes the most, the one who gives you the lowest energy prices and the best kind of energy, the one that keeps you out of wars, has kept you out of wars, but the one that keeps you out of wars. You know, you have a few basics, and you can go back 1,000 years, 1,000,000 years, whoever does these things, but low taxes, keep us safe, keep us out of wars, no crime, stop the crime, and in your case, a big immigration component, you know, because I know that your attitude has become strong on immigration, strong on the toughness of immigration. But I think whoever's going to be, I think I won because we had a lousy president, to be honest with you. We had an incompetent president. But I won because I was very strong on immigration. Now, we had inflation. We had sort of a bad economy with this guy. We had a lot of problems, but I focused on immigration more than I did anything else. And I think I won because of immigration. I think I won because of the border. I had a bad border where millions of people were coming in to our country illegally. And as you know, in last month, 0 people came into our country illegally, 0. So we went from a bad, incompetently run border to the most competently run border that anybody's ever seen.
Prime Minister, the President makes it look easy dealing with illegal migration. You must be envious of his record in such a short period of time.
Well, I think we've been discussing irregular, illegal migration is a huge issue in both of our countries. In the United Kingdom, it is a real cause for concern, and that's why we must bear down on it in all its aspects, upstream, across Europe, where a lot of ours comes into through northern France, across the Channel, working with our allies, with our colleagues to break the gangs that are actually running this trade. But equally being very strong that when people have arrived in this country who've got no right to be here, then we should be removing them to their own country. And that's why I'm really pleased that we've been able to focus on this very intensely and get 35,000 people out of the United Kingdom who had no right to be here. Because the message has to be, you can't make your way to the United Kingdom. We won't tolerate our rules being broken. And if you get here, you will be returned to where you came from. It's really important to bear down on that.
We're such an attractive place for people to come because they want a better life, because we are a wonderful country.
People coming via the rules are always welcome. Of course, we've welcomed talent and people into this country for centuries, literally. But what the British people will not tolerate is those that break the rules. Those that come through irregular routes, and that's the really important distinction here, and that's what we're bearing down on. And I'm really pleased that we're through pretty well all of the international engagement I've done, all the meetings I've had, the country we've done deals with. We've done deals with countries in the last 12 months that many people thought it was not possible to do deal with when it came to immigration, irregular immigration, and we returned thousands of people who've got no right to be here. And that, I think, is, for the British people, we're a reasonable, tolerant country where people are coming lawfully to contribute to our communities, to our country. Then, of course, they're welcome and made a great contribution. But what people will not tolerate is those that are breaking the rules. And that is an issue of today, but it's a very British thing. We are people who respect rules. We don't approve of those that break rules.
Mr. President, I can say, though, that I had one of the greatest victories, they say the most consequential in 129 years, so I don't know about that, but it was pretty close. And we won all of the swing states, which never happens. We won the popular vote by millions of votes. We won, tremendous electoral college sweep. And I believe I did it more than anything else because of my strong stand on immigration. And I don't think this country is any different in that sense. I think it's a big factor. And it is with a lot of the European countries. Some of the countries have, have lost their way, and they have tremendous crime because of it. I mean, you had countries with no crime that now have tremendous crime. And you know the countries, and I know the countries. And so I think it's a huge factor in any election, not just this election, but in any election. I think the one that's toughest and most competent on immigration is going to win the election. But then you add low taxes and you add the economy. He did a great thing with the economy because A lot of money is going to come in because of the deal that was made. But I think that immigration is now bigger than ever before.
Mr. President, your Treasury Secretary is meeting with Chinese trade officials
right now.
Right now. Have you received an update? Do you expect a deal when these talks are over, especially with the August 1st deadline?
No, they're meeting right now. And, we have a good relationship with China. But China's tough. And like you're tough, we're all tough, yes. But we're going to see what happens. We just concluded our deal with Japan. It was very good for everybody. We're making, great deals. We're making deals that are good for us, but we want them to be good for everybody. It's important. It's sometimes I'll do something that I shouldn't do because it's not very important for our country, but it's very meaningful for the country on the other side. And I'll let them have that point because it's very important for them. So I don't know, but we've made a lot of deals in the last couple of months. And then ultimately, as you might as well know, we're going to because we have, you have 200 countries, more, but people don't know that. You get a lot of countries. And I wouldn't want to sit down with 200 people and have to deal the way he was calling me all the time. We want this, we got to have that, These are tough negotiators. These are, look, they're smart people, they're tough negotiators. They know what they want. And, but we're going to be setting a tariff for essentially the rest of the world. And that's what they're going to pay if they want to do business in the United States. Because you can't sit down and make 200 deals. But we've made the big ones. We just finished Indonesia. They opened up their country. We just finished Japan. They opened up their country. Japan opened up the country. They were totally closed. They opened up to our cars, even to rice. Rice was a big deal. They would never take anybody else's rice. They're taking rice. But they opened up their country. Philippines, we just finished. They opened up their country. They were very closed. I'd love to see China open up their country. We're dealing with China right now, as we speak. Yeah, we're dealing with China right now.
The deal you've got with the UK is better than the one with the European Union. Is that because you think Brexit was a good idea in this country?
Well, look, we have a very special relationship with this country. Like, my mother was born here. And not only born here, loved it. She'd come back, I told you, religiously every year. And she'd go up to Stornoway and see her relatives. But she loved the country. Yeah, that probably it always has an impact. Always has an impact. But, Germany has a new leader, and I think he's terrific. I think you like him too.
Yeah,
I think he's terrific. My father was born in Germany. Or his parents were just out. But, so, you have a lot of feeling for this part of the world. I do. I want to see this part of the world do well. Germany, Scotland, UK. I want this part of the world to do well. All of the nations. You do feel a certain. You have a warm feeling toward a part when your parents are born essentially here. And I think maybe it's slightly different. Maybe it's not. I don't know, but maybe it's slightly different.
Mr. President, to completely rule out a pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell when you landed. Is that something you would ever consider, and why?
Pardon for who?
For Ghislaine Maxwell.
Well, I'm allowed to give her a pardon.
Yeah, you are.
Nobody's approached me with it. Nobody's asked me about it. It's in the news about that aspect of it, but right now it would be inappropriate to talk about it. So.
Mr. President, your opposition to offshore wind is well known in Scotland.
Wind is a disaster.
But in Scotland and across the UK, wind farms are.
I know, it's a shame. It's not his fault.
Well,
I used to tell Alex.
have you spoken to the Prime Minister, and will you speak to the First Minister?
All I can do is give my word. Look, wind is the most expensive form of energy, and it destroys the beauty of your fields and your plains and your waterways. And look out there. There's no windmills. But if you look in another direction, you see windmills. When we go to Aberdeen, you'll see some of the ugliest windmills you've ever seen. They're the height of a 50-story building. And you can take 1,000 times more energy out of a hole in the ground this big. This big. It's called oil and gas. And you have it there, the North Sea. This big, that nobody would even see. You can take 1,000 times more power because the wind is intermittent, it doesn't work, it's extremely expensive. All the windmills are made in China. They used to be Germany and China, now they're mostly in China. They all come out of China. They say that the blades, which are carbon fiber, you can't bury. Oh, okay, you can't bury. What are you going to do, dump them in the ocean someplace? Because they only last a certain period of time. And remember, a windmill has a life of 8 years, especially when they're out in the salty sea and they start to rot and to rust. You have to replace them. It's very hard to replace them. Wind needs massive subsidy. And you are paying in Scotland and in UK and all over the place where they have them, massive subsidies to have these ugly monsters all over the place. So I've restricted windmills in the United States. Now, a couple, we have, you know, the poor stupid people at the beginning, they approve them, so they have their full approvals. But I've restricted windmills in the United States because they also kill all your birds. You know, they wipe out. You know, it's interesting. If you shoot a bald eagle in the United States, they put you in jail for 5 years. And yet windmills knock out hundreds of them. They don't do anything. You explain that. So it's a very expensive energy. It's a very ugly energy. And we won't allow it in the United States.
So we believe in a mix. And obviously oil and gas is going to be with us for a very long time. And that'll be part of the mix. But also wind, solar, increasingly nuclear, which is what we've been discussing this morning, civil, nuclear, as we go forward. The most important thing for the United Kingdom is that we have control of our energy, and we have energy independence and security, because at the moment, whatever the attributes and facilities in the North Sea, that is sold onto the international market, and we buy it back off the international market. That was a historic mistake in my view. But what we need is a mix so that we get the energy security that we need for the future, and that's the focus of everything that we're doing. But what we have discussed today is that the energy prices are too high, which is why we recently took measures to reduce the energy prices, particularly for energy-intensive businesses. But in the long run, the only way to reduce your energy prices is to take control of your energy, and that's what we're doing, taking control of our energy.
Mr. President. Our King Charles, who you're a great friend of, is a big fan of eco-projects, of windmills, as you call them. Is he wrong?
So King Charles is an environmentalist, I will tell you. And I say that in a positive way, not a negative way. And, every time I've met with him, he talked about the environment, how important it is. And I'm all for it. I think that's great. You know, King Charles, more than anything else, loves the country. But I got to know him very well. He truly is an environmentalist. He wants clean air, clean water, you know, all of the things that we all want.
Mr. President, you have said that you have not been briefed on the Epstein files, or your name has not appeared in the Epstein files. But doesn't the AG have to tell you if your name is in the files?
I haven't been overly interested in it. You know, it's a hoax that's been built up way beyond proportion. I can say this, those files were run by the worst scum on earth. They were run by Comey, they were run by Garland, they were run by Biden and all of the people that actually ran the government, including the auto pen. Those files were run for 4 years by those people. If they had anything, I assume they would have released it. The whole thing is a hoax. They ran the files. I was running against somebody that ran the files. If they had something, they would have released. Now, they can easily put something in the files that's a phony. Like, as an example, Christopher Steele, a person you know well, happens to be from your country. But Christopher Steele, as an example, wrote a book, a dossier. We call it the fake news dossier. And the whole thing was a fake. The whole thing was a fake. They could put things in the file that are fake. But those files were run by bad, sick people. If they had anything, why didn't they use it when I was killing Joe and that he gave out because he was 25 points down? And then I got somebody new. Nobody even knew anything about it. She was a horrible vice president. She was our border czar, but she never went to the border. She never once called a border patrol agent to find out how we do. But she was the border czar. Her name was Kamala. Nobody knows her last name. It was Harris, but nobody knew her last name. So I ended up, how would you like to end up in a race where you're killing somebody, you're beating him, and then they say, all right, we'll take him out. He's not working. Let's put somebody else. And then she had a 6-week honeymoon. It was amazing. They predicted she would have a 6-week honeymoon, and she did. And then she got slaughtered.
Do you feel that?
But think of it. Those files were run by these people. They were run by my enemy. If there was anything in there, they would have used them for the election.
Do you feel that?
That drawing that, I think I heard you say something the other day, that the drawing that was the subject of the Wall Street Journal report.
I don't do drawings. I'm not a drawing person.
Do you think it was fraudulent?
I don't do drawings. Sometimes people say, well, you draw a building and I'll draw 4 lines and a little roof, for a charity, so. But I'm not a drawing person. I don't do drawings of women, that I can tell you. They say there's a drawing of a woman, and I don't do drawings of women. And also, Epstein was always a very controversial guy. I was at a very high position, pretty much all my life. In all fairness, I've been doing this for a long time. I had the top show on television. I had the #1 bestsellers. I had everything, right? And I was a very successful business guy. He was a very controversial. Who would do a controversial drawing? Now, with that being said, they say there were many letters done by many people, and many big people, big successful people. But I just don't. When you talk about files, I just keep going back, and other people too. Even the enemy says this thing is not correct, because if we had it, we would have used it on the guy. It's a bad issue. They say it's a good issue for Trump. Do you know that my poll numbers are up 4.5 points since this ridiculous Epstein stuff? My poll numbers have gone up 4.5 points because people don't buy it. Okay, people don't buy it. And he's gone, and we want to focus on trade deals. I want to focus on the deal we just made with the European Union, which is the biggest trade deal in history. It's the biggest deal, I think, in history, not just trade deal. So if they would have had something, they would have used it.
People keep Frank says at the time you threw him out of Mar-a-Lago. Can you settle that? What was it about? What caused the breach with him?
That's such old history. Very easy to explain, but I don't want to waste your time by explaining it. But for years, I wouldn't talk to Jeffrey Epstein. I wouldn't talk, because he did something that was inappropriate. He hired help, and I said, don't ever do that again. He stole people that worked for me. I said, don't ever do that again. He did it again, and I threw him out of the place, persona non grata. I threw him out, and that was it. I'm glad I did, if you want to know the truth.
Mr. President,
and by the way, I never went to the island, and Bill Clinton went there supposedly 28 times. I never went to the island, but Larry Summers, I hear, went there. He was the head of Harvard, and many other people that are very big people. Nobody ever talks about them. I never had the privilege of going to his island, and I did turn it down, but a lot of people in Palm Beach were invited to his island. In one of my very good moments, I turned it down. I didn't want to go to his island. Yeah.
Mr. President, on Gaza, next time you speak to Netanyahu, what will you be asking him to do?
Say it one louder.
Next time you speak to Netanyahu, what will you ask him to do?
Well, I'm going to say, look, we're giving money and we're giving food, but we're over here and we're over in the United States, and I think I can speak for the Prime Minister. We're giving money and things. He's got to sort of like run it.
What should he do?
Well, I want them to make sure they get the food. I want to make sure they get the food, every ounce of food. I think you want to say
absolutely. It's an absolute point.
Because that food is a big delivery.
Mr. President,
or at least all of it.
You said you were going to set essentially a tariff for the rest of the world. What percent will that tariff be?
I would say it'll be somewhere in the 15 to 20% range.
So maybe 15 or 20, or?
No, I said, I sort of know. I just want to be nice. I would say in the range of 15 to 20%.
Is there also you might operate, say, UK steel?
Probably one of those two numbers.
It's not just like UK and steel aluminum makers here are worried about tariffs. Will you do anything to help them here?
Aluminum?
And steel.
You're a pretty big aluminum maker.
Yeah, that's already covered in the deal that we've agreed. So we're just doing the implementation of that.
When will that come down from 25% to 0?
You mean on the overall on the world?
On steel and aluminum from Britain, it's 25.
Well, we're going to know pretty soon. We're going to have it pretty soon.
Mr. President, on Canada...
You have no idea. These people are tough negotiators, okay? But we're a big buyer of steel, but we're going to make our own steel, and we're going to make our own aluminum for the most part. But
Yeah, he looks like a big, tough negotiator, just like the lady yesterday looked like a big, tough negotiator. I think yesterday President Trump announced that he got a deal for like $750 billion. And then the day before that, he announced a deal with Japan for $550 billion. And all the press seems to want to know is what's going on with Epstein. I blame all of those right-wing so-called influencers. They caused this. And let me tell you, after I get done with this interview that's coming up, which I think you guys are going to be surprised and you're going to love this interview, I'm going to prove to you that the right-wing influencers did indeed cause this. They gave the Democrats an opportunity to glom on to anything. It's not working, but it's still annoying. So I want to introduce you to Bruce Leavell. And many of you guys may be saying to yourself, well, who is Bruce Leavell? I haven't heard that name. Well, the boss has heard him. The boss has definitely heard of him. Listen to this.
They know. Bruce knows. The great Bruce Leavell. Stand up, Bruce. He's been with me from before I ran. He was with me in 2014, saying that guy in New York should run. He'll be great president. That was long before I even read. I didn't even know about it. I think you might have convinced me to run. I don't know. Some of these people, they've been, some people have been.
And that's Donald Trump acknowledging Bruce Leavell. Bruce, how are you? Can you hear me?
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me. How's it going?
Good, brother. How you doing? So he said in that little spot right there that, you've been with President Trump from the beginning. So please give us a little bit of information on your history with President Trump.
Well, thanks for having me. Well, actually, I met him here in Atlanta in '91. He was in town doing a fundraiser for Kid and Kind. And of course, at the time, it was Marla. He was with Marla. And they were in Southwest Atlanta, yes, predominantly black neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And they were raising money. At that time, they used the term, AIDS. These were little black children mm-hmm. with little babies with AIDS. They used that term back then. Anyway, they were raising money, and Channel 2 actually covered it. And I called one of my friends at Channel 2, and I actually dug it up some few years back. And I said, oh, wow. Anyway, long story short, they raised a good ton of money. And that night, they went to this club called Petrus. That was a really upscale night spot here in Atlanta that we'd all hang out and dress up and park our Corvettes out front and, do all that good stuff like that. But he was a celebrity then. That's when I met him. So, fast forwarding, Barry, for the sake of time, kept up off and on for years. I did want him to run many years. I love business people, especially successful business people. I love for them to run for city council, run for the mayor, run for Senate, governor, of course, president. Because I'm a business owner here in Atlanta for 30 years. So I'm very attracted to, for everyone watching this, if you're a business owner, you're doing really well. It doesn't matter. You can be the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. I'm encouraging you to run for some of the local seats and bring the Great America First agenda with it.
And have you seen, even in your own business, the contrast and change from what Biden was doing to what you're seeing right now?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I have two facets of my business: retail, manufacturing, jewelry, as well as real estate. A lot of friends, over 30 years, you connect to a lot of different people in car wash businesses, engineering firms, et cetera, et cetera. We all break bread. A lot of us might not agree on some of the politics, but we do agree on one thing. Mm-hmm. We do see the contrast, obviously, especially from the first Trump administration, mm-hmm. and to see what happened in the dismal Biden-Harris administration. So there's a complete contrast as it relates to balance sheets, et cetera, is what we look at, numbers. Obviously, the Trump tax cuts were very effective in 2017, and you saw that's in the big, beautiful bill. And for some of you, your viewers out here, you're going to see, as those payroll checks start coming in, you're going to see the FICA be a lot lower than what it was. And obviously, that's just going to keep stimulating the economy.
And when you were in or working in the first administration with Trump, you were with the SBA? That's where the role you played?
Yeah, he appointed me. I came in 18. I came a little later, and I said, you know what, let me just practice what I preach. So I took a leave from my business, and I became the White House advocate for the entire southeast of the United States.
Wow.
Traveled around, got to meet various different diverse backgrounds and different communities in Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, Mississippi, Alabama, of course, Georgia. And I tell you, very, very diverse, different styles of cultures. Different ways of doing business in terms of food and retail commodities, et cetera. It was a good experience for me because it gave me some good eyes and ears that I could report back, obviously, to the president. So it was a great run, and it gave me more context too, Barry, to be honest with you. And also to sit on these podcasts and going on many TV shows and everything and speak intelligently and not just talkers.
Now, like me, you're about the same shade as me, so I'm going to assume here, a big assumption, you're black, or at least the black, what they would call us. You got the one drop in the milk here.
Yeah.
How was that, especially in Atlanta? I mean, I got it really bad, even my own family, and in people here in South Florida. Like, how could you be possibly representing and wanting to be associated with something like Trump? In Atlanta, I got to imagine it was even harder for you.
Well, I think for me, I was very privileged on my dad's side. They were linked to a lot of, civil rights guys. My uncle marched with A.D. King, which is my sister Alveda King's dad, who actually, historical reasons, he started the movement, not Martin. So I was tied in that side. But most of these folks in that particular generation were very conservative, obviously in the South up until John F. Kennedy, and that's when the trend switched over, with some other reasons with that. But I've always been in those conservative loops, but I've always been a numbers guy. I'm not really emotionally attached to, titles. I've been, I voted Republican my whole life, and my dad, but it wasn't because it was, quote, Republican. It was because I took both sides and looked at the pros and cons, and the pros were more on the conservative. So that's why I voted. And that's what I tried to keep that conversation going with a lot of my family members who were on the Democrat Party, and some were even far, far left side. But I write my own checks. I beat my own drum. I talk to whoever I want to, and I vote the way I want to, and no one controls me. And so that's kind of, and plus I'm 6'4", 245, so it's a little.
Okay, so you're a big guy like I am, because that's one of the things I tell people is, if you're signing the front of the check, your attitude is different than you're signing the back of a check. And a lot of people, of all different backgrounds, don't understand how you put that hat on differently. And that when you do that, you're able to look at it, like you said, from a data perspective. It's all about the numbers. And so, one of the things that, and I know you being experienced in real estate and, in terms of numbers, when President Trump went to the Federal Reserve and he dropped that information on Jerome Powell, which he should have known, what were you thinking? Explain from an entrepreneurial perspective, because what I tried to tell people is he should have known that was coming.
Yeah. Well, this gets back to what I said early in your segment. This is why I'm trying to promote and push business people to go serve. Go take a leave of absence if you have to. It's no different than being a weekend warrior, as I call it, reservist. Right. You have a coffee shop and you have to go away for 2 weeks every year for, out in the field, et cetera. Listen, I knew where that was going. I actually tweeted about this. I actually went on one of the networks and talked about the change orders, and he probably more than likely could have constructed that building with less than 25% of what they're building. He's proven that in many ways. So obviously Jerome Powell was totally out of his lane, and he tried to sit up there like a typical bureaucratic intellectual clown and trying to negotiate and debate the master of the negotiator who's built billions of dollars worth of infrastructures. And we, I'm not on that scale, but I understand change orders, and we always try to keep within a 10% contingency when we are constructing things. But it was interesting where he went into that. He walked right into that door of no return.
All right, so you've been around President Trump for quite some time. You probably recognize when you saw that on the videos, like, oh, he laid a trap and this guy walked right into it. And I've been showing my community here, oftentimes he's doing it again, and it seems like these people just walk head on into the trap. Is that just his personality? He realizes people are either not educated or not aware, and he waits for them to, almost like a lion.
Well, I think it's more this. I can speak for him on this. He doesn't punch you unless you punch him.
Right.
And a lot of times he'll get punched, but you won't hear it publicly. But it's going on in some small donor groups or what have you. Mm-hmm. He'll shoot one across the bow and warn you, and you keep it up. Then, all right, he's going to come punch you. So that's kind of like he's been telling Jerome Powell, because you saw during the Biden administration, they lowered it right before the election, trying to obviously help the Biden-Harris administration. Trump is like, look, I'm not trying for you to help me. I'm trying for you to help the country. What's wrong with half a point or a point or two to get this thing going? And he's being, hard-headed, and I'll fix you and all that. And this is why it's so critical to get these bureaucrats out of these seats and get real good, strong business people to come in and serve. And guys, y'all listening to this, I'm telling you, don't just bark at the TV. Look around at your state court. See some of you great lawyers watching your this podcast. Put your name in the hat for the DA's office or solicitor's office or a state court, probate, superior court, district. Just do one term. We need all great America First patriots to serve.
School boards.
Exactly.
That's a big one.
Yeah, and the commission. The commissions deal with budgets, and sheriff's office that deal with the 287G programs that some of the officers use, and some of them neglect. They don't realize how that helps counties and communities by enforcing good quality legal immigration. So the list goes on.
Let me ask you a question. Again, from your internal perspective, not asking you to reveal your relationship, but when you're seeing what's going on with Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, and Dan Bongino puts out a cryptic post the other day, and Todd Blanche goes to see Ghislaine Maxwell, is it pretty much, do you think that there's something big about to break? That they're trying to get all their ducks in a row because they know they got one shot at this?
Well, yes and no. I look at it like this. First of all, I'm looking at the state of the economy, number one, the economic engine. I'm looking at our relationships with, obviously, with Ukraine and Russia. I'm looking at our new tariff agreements in terms of the money. Here we go, the numbers, because all what I'm saying affects everything. Of course, I like to see any justice brought to the light as it relates to any of these children or young children being treated inappropriately, number one, and first and foremost. So if there's more to that, God bless it, so be it. And I'll say this, Barry. I said this. I was in the middle of an interview. I think I was on Fox, and right in the middle, this is about a year and a half ago, I said, this new administration, the second term, and this is quote, and for all you viewers, this is the season of exposure. And people said, what do you mean by that? I said, well, it goes back to where President Trump, how he started and how this whole movement came from 17 of the most qualified candidates in the nation's history, Rubio, Kasich, Jeb Bush, Mike Huckabee, and he knocked all of them down. Ben Carson, I was there. I was one of those guys that were getting laughed at and talked about and all the other stuff. They couldn't believe it. But one thing real quick that keeps me very motivated is that I really believe that there's a particular movement going on. And, as a spiritual man, I believe God's using President Trump for a reason.
Absolutely.
And so that's what keeps me motivated. I never taken any money from him. I never worked for him. I never asked for anything except just go serve for a year or two before the pandemic. And it keeps me motivated because I realize that first of all, I know him very well. He's giving up his life, and he almost lost his life twice. It's fair to say, Barry.
As far as we know.
Yeah, and that's the things that we do know.
Yeah.
And there's some other things that possibly could have went down that we don't know about publicly. And to keep motivating, to keep being motivated to wanting to serve, to almost die for a cause, and that's there's a lot to be said with that.
Yeah.
So you often say, okay, where is this going? And many of us, I mean, I'm just a business guy in Atlanta, and there's my good brother over in pastor over in Cleveland, Pastor Scott, and a lot of these folks, we gave up so much. We didn't know it's going to be like this. I didn't know it was going to be all over TV. I used to do television for local stuff, for different boards I was on, but nothing on a global or national scale that I was doing. And it's like, okay, there's something to this. It's got to be. So you got to just take your natural mind out of this and just say, and sit back and say, okay, God, whatever your will, what is going to be, whether it be Epstein here or whatever's over there. And if you don't get a sense of peace to say, and being patient, because remember, he plays 4D chess, and I need to remind everyone, it's not your time, it's the time that he's calculated to move on his time. He's not going to sit up here and just say, well, the public says I need to do this, I need to do that. He doesn't operate like that. He's not a politician. He's a business guy. So just because you hear or see something over here doesn't mean that's really what that is.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's something over here preparing for this.
Mm-hmm.
I know that sounds.
No, I've been telling
some people are like scratching their head on your show.
Like. For a year now, you got to look at the whole picture and understand he's a guy who has built skyscrapers and has had to get zoning, and understand he's got to play with these guys and these guys over here, and so everybody he has to pull all the levers at the right time, and you can just see it at this point that the Democrats don't seem to have an answer. They're relying on, it seems like, the right-wing influencers to cause the problem, and it's showing even more, because as a black person I wanted to get your opinion on this, because it drives me crazy what the heck is happening up in New York City. You live in a big city or in the area of Atlanta. This whole thing in New York, we went from being slaves, our ancestors, to now advocating going back into slavery and supporting communism. What is wrong with these people?
Well, it's called a generational curse, Barry, unfortunately. But it also, you have to scratch your head and wonder the culture in the last 20 years that would vote for this person. Listen, I always said you get mad at Ilhan Omar, you get mad at AOC, but they can't get there unless there's a group of people that believe in that ideology.
Yeah.
So I'm going back to we the people, by the people. It's not him. What does it say about the actual culture that goes to the voting booth and votes this agenda in? There's your culprit. And you scratch it. Where did this come from? And it's very easy, Barry, we've been around the sun quite a bit. Some of these folks probably watching, is we've pushed away the basic common sense that made this republic for which it stands, and we pushed it away, and we allowed a culture. Because remember, it's like I have a lot of friends in Hollywood too, believe it or not, and one of my good friends that goes way back with Burt Reynolds says, I said, what happened to Hollywood? I said, well, Hollywood was very conservative back in the day. It says Hollywood didn't turn that way. It says until the Christians gave it away. So you ask yourself, well, someone can't take something unless you give it away.
Right.
So what does that say about the voting population in New York City and everything? Is because they gave it away. They didn't take it. We gave. People, that's why I said they can't take your community unless you give it to them. So this says a lot about the culture and the mindset of the voters, and it's kind of sad. So I actually tweeted about this. I wish there were a 4-year course mandatory on basic civics that you had to pass before you graduate. Forget about the math and the science, because I think if you get the common sense ideology in place, the math and science will come later. But at least let's get this in place to get people to understand, we're not perfect. This nation, we've done some things. We've tried to correct ourselves. We can get better. However, we can't slide down this slope of the government being the save-all, and it's going to take care of us. And in our culture, that's been the generational curse for years, all the way back through from these heinous policies of a woman can have as many children and get subsidized, don't put a man in the home, etc. And you see, Barry, I'm 61, and this is a fact for your viewers too, that, in the 60s, early 60s and 50s, 80% of the brown households had a mom and dad. Now it's less than 25%. So we've seen this real huge cultural shift because we took our eyes off the basic common goal of common sense and numbers, good solid numbers. And this is where we're at.
That's the kind of stuff that leads to what we saw in Cincinnati, that absolute insane mob mentality, almost looking like a pack of wild animals. I mean, they almost killed a couple of those people. And I'm thinking, is there nobody in the group who can step in and go, stop, don't do, all of us have been in fights, but at some point, either one of your boys comes over, your girlfriend comes over and says, enough, but they don't seem to have an off switch. And that's something that has to be taught, and it makes me sick because those are the kind of things that actually drive racism. People become afraid. They want to cross the street. They don't want to be near that group of people. And that's where people like you and me, they don't recognize us when we're not on the air or in a nice car or a restaurant. We look like the people who could offend them. And so it just drives me absolutely nuts when I see that kind of stuff. And last question I want to get into with you, because you're up in the Atlanta area. What are we going to do to get rid of the Stacey Abrams, what's Jonathan Ossoff, Warnock, Fannie Willis crowd, who have usurped the voters in the Atlanta area?
Well, we plan to get rid of Ossoff. I see my good friend Mike Collins just jumped in the race. He did the Lake and Riley bill and wrote and got passed. His dad was Matt Collins. He owns a trucking company. He's a good guy. He just announced today, actually. And there's a couple other candidates that jumped in to take out Ossoff. Ossoff has a terrible voting record, and that's going to be for our benefit, obviously. In terms of the Fannie Willis situation, the best way that we can get to her, obviously, is get a real attorney general. Attorney general that could have said, like you said earlier in your segment, you see the mob going on and someone intervene and say, look, stop, enough's enough.
Right.
You're going to prosecute a former president because of a phone call? And he had the ability to do that. He said no, and his name is Chris Carr, and he's actually trying to run for governor.
Wow.
So the answer to your question on the Fannie Willis is that. The other part, obviously, is to get Warnock out in 2028. That's coming up, and I think there's a couple of good candidates that are circling the wagon to vote him out with his. It's interesting you brought Warnock up because, my family went to Ebenezer in the 50s. Some of my uncles interned down the street on Wheat Street to get their minister's license back then. And I was always perplexed to see a pastor and, to sit there and dance around on the pro-life, pro-choice movement. And that right there, I'm like, but then again, we have other so-called folks in front of these congregations that live various alternative lifestyles and do all types of things. So I tell you, it's sad because it breaks every principle away for what happens to our society when we just get more and more into the moral decay. And I don't know how much you read, but I can tell you this, what's written, the more we turn from God, he removes his covering, and then we lose our nation. And that's biblical. So that's the sad part about it. And that's why I encourage really good, solid believers, as well as good, solid business people. Y'all go serve, just get involved, even if you have to take a small sacrifice, because we need you in these particular seats, because, like I said, they can't take unless we give it to them.
Yeah, Bruce, I always say last question to people who are in our community, like Barry always says last question, and then you'll say something, and here's another last question.
No.
You mentioned it a few times just while we've talked here, and there's people sitting at home and they're watching this, and you say, go run for something, get involved. How do you do that? How do you look at the landscape and say, here's an opportunity for me to do something? What should I be looking at? How do I pick where I might fit? What do I do? Because you're probably encouraging some people to actually activate and do something. Now, how do they do it?
Well, I'm a former party chairman, so I'm a little biased on this. I'm going to tell you, to answer your question, obviously from the conservative side, you can look at your local county. And whatever county you're in, go look on the website, Bell County Republican Party, whatever. Click on, they have usually monthly meetings or whatever, and just show up.
Okay.
And as goony as people try to make that out to be, it's actually the conduit to get to know the DA, the state rep, the state house. You start meeting other folks and other like-minded people that have a common interest, and you start there, and then you get to meet and greet people, and then I always say, just look at your tax bill, look at your community, look at your roads, and just ask yourself, can I do a better job? Can I be a better steward of the money than this person? Right. And that's where it all comes from. But I like that starting point, at least. It's not perfect, but it is a starting point. Because 9 times out of 10, remember, everything that comes to the Republican Party comes from the county party. It goes from the state, and then it goes to the RNC. So, as much as you might agree or disagree or whatever, I always like to point people in that direction. At least get going and get started, get to know people. And then at least you can start getting your platforms that tell you when qualifying dates are, when they come up, when the election date, everything you want to know, anything that goes on in votes, whether it be special elections or general primaries, you will get that information from your local party and anywhere in the United States. And that's a great starter.
You being in real estate, me being in real estate, I used to tell people whenever I was going in for a permitting or a rezoning application, how few people would show up to the meetings. They're free. You can walk in. You see the sign. You see the sign and piece of a property that says zoning hearing, and everybody just drives by it. One day, if you're bored or not bored, if you're enthused, find out when that hearing is and just go sit. Just listen to who's saying what and what they're doing. And I was amazed. I'm sure you've done that too. You file for stuff.
Gosh. Yeah. and after that, and after the meeting, Barry, you get to meet the zoning commissioners after the meeting. Hey, I'm so-and-so, I own this. You'll meet some of the lawyers that represent some of the developers. You'll meet some of the actual business people that are trying to get a permit or not get a permit. Right. And then you really watch and understand it. But more so too, interesting you brought that up. Once you develop a reputation in your community, especially in that part, things go a lot easier. And that's when you're getting exposed in county, government, city, political parts, people start saying, well, that's Barry, I know him. Yeah. It does give you a tremendous amount of clout when people start identifying you in certain leadership roles.
See, I didn't want to say that because I didn't want to sound cocky to people, but I'm sure you would agree. You get a lot of, for those of you who are saying, I want to start a business or do a business, when you go to some of these meetings, you find people, number one, who are doing the same thing, who are trying to do the same thing, people with money who may want to look to invest in something, just by shaking hands. Hey, how you doing? I just heard you speak about all kinds of information. So Bruce, thank you Bruce, what are you going to be working on? What should we follow you? I've got your X handle right there. What are you going to be doing?
I'm going to keep continuing talking the good news. Obviously, you saw the president over in Scotland. I'm still one of his top surrogates. The numbers, once again, is going to be interesting to see what happens in the next 30 days on the Fed. Also, fast forwarding it, the Schedule 1, Schedule 3 conversations on the whole cannabis issue and where this at and what's going on with that. That's going to be something talked about coming up in the future in terms of the country itself. But more so trying to pray for peace in Ukraine and Russia and get the Gaza Strip under control. And like the president, when he did the Abraham Accords, that was designed like, look, you guys can hate each other, but let's do some business.
Yeah.
You can still hate each other, but let's do some business. Let's build some things. The same thing, real quick, Barry, when Sarah Huckabee was on this trip over in Singapore and he called up Kim Jong and said, hey, let me stop in and holler at you. He actually showed him an iPad that showed some renderings of some resorts. What did Kim Jong just recently do?
I don't know.
He built some resorts.
Oh, wow.
Fact checked it. So what I'm saying, and this is what I've learned, when there's confrontation, left, right, center, when you bring the common sense of money and economic development, all the crazy noise goes out the door.
Exactly.
What can we do to bridge to make money? Yes, I know you don't like me because I'm a Republican. Yes, you're a Democrat, whatever. But how do we make some money? How do we grow this community? What do we do? How do we help your business? And once you start that conversation, your foreign adversaries or people that you think don't, once you start talking about money and resources and infrastructure, they forget what they were mad at you about.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've seen that in my personal life. Some people have gotten mad at me, but I don't know if you're familiar with the Fort Lauderdale area, but there's an area outside of Fort Lauderdale called Wilton Manors. And Wilton Manors is probably 96, 97% gay. I mean, just completely gay. But they have the people. Some of the
not
people,
as rough as Gulfport, Florida, right next to my house.
Yeah. But I was buying houses and people started approaching me and saying, you might want to come in here and renovate some. I'm like, well, I don't want to go in there. Trust me, you're gonna be able to move these houses very quickly. And then I ended up getting some investors who wanted to, who were in that, lifestyle. And I remember what you just said. I asked them, like, how can we be doing business? Because we found our commonality.
Yeah.
And I went, wow, okay. She actually said that to me. She goes, we found our commonality. We both want to succeed. We both want to see the area
Hey, Barry.
Yes.
I got one better. My grandmother, she was a devout Christian. She knew the Bible better than any Baptist minister. Of course, back then they didn't allow women to, lead, but she knew it better than any minister. She'd always say, honey, pray for others and save yourself. There you go.
Very good. Very good. All right, Bruce, thank you very much for your time. Man. It was real enlightening. I hope everybody here got some stuff from it. We'd love to have you back. Thank you very much and have a great week.
All right, thank you. God bless.
You. All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that. That was with Bruce Leavell. He was obviously a Trump surrogate, and you got to see someone and hear from somebody who's actually been with President Trump, and I hope that was some enlightening to you. I will be right back in a second. I'm gonna let me talk to you about the Trump red knife here, and then we'll come back and finish up. Alrighty. Let me talk to you guys about this knife here. Many of you have seen from Patriot Addict the Trump red knife. That's the Trump red knife right here. Good knife. A lot of people have gotten it and said they really like it. So they came out with a new product, and this new product is the Trump, there it is right there, the Trump Signature Blade. Pretty cool packaging, how they put this together. Knife is pretty much the same knife mechanically. It has all the same features, quick release and everything else that's got it. But the difference is it is painted differently. It's got 45, 47 on it. It's got flag. It's got a different aura to it. Most importantly, it's got a stencil on it where it's got President Trump's signature on the actual blade. And it's very, 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 very sharp. Sharper than the other one, I think. You can get this knife for free. All you've got to do is go to the QR code right here and order it up, and you will get it. And it is a special just for the Fanfare community. Why are they doing it? Because you guys have been so good in helping them and helping this channel grow. They're offering this knife for free. Now the catch is, if there is a catch, is that you just have to pay for shipping. Shipping being about 14, 15 bucks or so. And that's it. No subscriptions. No ongoing fees, don't have to sign up for anything. Just go to the QR code right here and you can pick up this knife for just the cost of shipping. It regularly retails for 70 bucks, but that's all you do is pay the shipping and they'll get it out to you pretty quick. And I trust me, just from all the different people who have written about it, you're going to love it. You're going to love it. Thanks, guys, from Patriot Addict for helping out with this show. All right, so let's go ahead and take some of your comments here real quick. Rachel says, I like Wilton Manors area. There are a lot of nice homes and people there. Yep, yeah, there are. Very, very nice area to visit. And if you're hung up on seeing certain things, you don't want to go there. All right, let me just tell you that. It's extremely LGBTQ-ish. And, you know, the older people there are established, and some of them have done well for themselves, and they're not the crazies. The crazies are the problems that we don't like. There are LGBT Trump supporters. Yep, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. There are. I just got my signature knife the other day. It's very sharp. I told you it was sharp. It's sharp. It's really sharp. Scary sharp. Harold Smith said, I'd like to open up a local donut shop. We have nothing like this in my area. When I was talking to Bruce, I was absolutely telling the truth. Now as you're driving around your area, I want you to look for the yellow or the green or the white sign, whatever it is in your area. And it says hearing. And it'll tell the date and time. And most of them are like every second Tuesday of the month or something. You can even call your local permitting or zoning people and say, hey, where's planning? When's the next hearing? They'll tell you. And then you will get an agenda, and it will tell you all the people who are opening a business and who they are and what's going on. So in your area, you may see somebody who's opening up a donut shop, because you got to go in and you got to get. See, a lot of people don't know that. They think, hey, I'm going to rent a space and I'm going to turn the key and I'm going to go in and open a business. It doesn't work like that. You're going to have to get permission from wherever to make sure you get your license, and so that you can put your business in there. I know it's a ripoff. You should be able to do what you want, but hence that's what the case is. But anyway, you can go to these hearings. You just sit there, and sometimes it's kind of comical. You're like, you see some people in there screaming about something. They put their fence too close to my property and I don't like it, and all kinds of stuff. But you see the way things work. You watch how the business and the sausage is made. And there's going to be 4, 5, 6, 7 people up on the panel. One of them's usually the mayor or the city manager, and then 4 or 5 other commissioners. And you just listen. And you'll get the ideology of these people. And you would do the same thing with a school board. Like, oh, she's whacked. We need to get rid of her. And find your target. Well, in regard to what Harold is saying here, same thing with your business. Find out who's looking to do something. Talk to the landlord at the property. Why is it vacant? What was here before? What's the rent? What are the terms? What's the electric like here? What's the history of the crime in the area? You can do all that stuff literally like this. You know, Robin and I, as I mentioned to you, we're buying a house to turn around and resell it. And it takes me, as I mentioned, 15 to 20 minutes to do my autopsy on the property. And I can tell you everything about a property in about 15 to 20 minutes. Bam, boom, 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 bing, bing, divorce, code violation, and let me see the whole neighborhood now. Then I can put a microscope on the whole area. What's going on here? Oh, let me go ahead and check the sex offenders database. I don't want no pedos living anywhere near around this house, because if people are going to be moving in and they're going to be moving in with young children, they want to know, hey, any pedos around here? Nope. Okay. Nope. You're clear. There's nothing here. Want to know everything. How many police reports have been filed in this neighborhood? What's the response time? I know it all. I can literally, when I'm done with my file, it is about 35 pages or pages in a PDF long, and I can go, okay. I should show you one time what one of my inspection reports look like. It's like 200 pages. For $300, I can learn everything about a property. So I only say this to let you know, like Bruce said, data. Data is your friend. I don't care what color the data is. I don't care what the data is, who is sleeping with. I don't care if they got a GIMP in the basement. I just want the data. And then, of course, we're going to find that commonality, because we're going to do a deal. So you hear these same things with the president talking. Got to do a deal. Got to do a deal. We got to do a deal. We're going to do a deal. We did a deal. Never heard that from any Democrats. A scrapbook or junk journal shop. Let's see what. Thanks, Captain Dan. A scrapbook or junk journal shop, stamps, wax seals. Yep, absolutely. Able to walk dogs. Yeah, I've mentioned that before. When we go traveling, we don't want to put our dogs in a vet or a kennel or anything. There's a lady who has she's retired and she takes care of little dogs. Dogs have to be under 12 or 14 pounds. And it's a no collar facility, and she's got it fenced, and she has like 5 or 6 dogs that hang out at a time. And she's just like, I won't give away her business, but she is, well, it doesn't really matter. I can give her a plug. It's called Your Other Mommy or My Other Mommy. And, we drop the dog off and she just watches the dogs. They love her. Barry, there's a problem if there's a gimp in the basement. You got me. I was thinking nobody would even know that reference. And of course, Maximus, he's dead on. I kind of slid that in there, just laughed. Put it this way, let me say this, Maximus. If you got a gimp in the basement and I don't know about it, then that's a little bit different. Gina says she loves pet sitting. We end up paying some decent money to watch this little Mexican and Maltese. Absolutely. Chihuahua. Great interview with Bruce. He's a true winner. Yep, absolutely. Let's see him. I don't know for sure, but I kind of like him. I don't know what that means. I won't show it. Don from John's Queen Spanking. I'm looking through here sometimes. Can you close the Patriot Addict deck so we can see all of your open packs? Did I leave that open? Yep, I'm sorry. My bad. My bad. They end up getting like a long a long ad. I left that out there. Sorry, my bad. She said it. Can you see that? You can close it. I forgot. Thank you. There's a dog place here called Rover that does everything. If someone, let's see here, who's it? And that's so cute. I travel too much to have pets. Yeah, we couldn't do anything with our little babies. Pulp Fiction, that's where the movie comes from, exactly. I love it that you guys have a loving home to care for your precious pups. I'll have to salute Robin on that one. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. She spent a lot of time researching and finding out, and it was like she was hiring a woman. I'm going to have to come and sit with you first. I'm going to have to see what it's like here. And then she's like, I just want to let you know, I'm going to have to come unannounced. I don't want to come there and let you know what time so you can, get everything set so it doesn't look a certain way. I'd like to be able to come and knock on the door. And lady's like, you can come anytime you want. I said, that's some confidence. I don't even let people come here anytime they want. CNN forced to admit the trade deal with the European Union made a victory for Trump. Okay, CNN, what else we got here? I disagree with Bruce on one thing. The people of New York City can't get rid of corrupt Democrats because the vote there is fixed. Well, yeah, you can. The people have to rise up. The people have to defend themselves. The people have to let everybody know we're not going to take this crap anymore. That's what the people have to do. They have to do it. Check next. Where's that? Check Nick Sortor's post. Let me see. What did Nick post? Nick post something really recently? Hold on. All right. What? I usually have Nick on speed dial here, so it's pretty quick. Nick Sortor's last post was... Why you got to do that to me? Oh boy, this is going to be a good one to close on. When I tell you the Democrats have nothing, they really, really, really have nothing. Oh, good gosh. Democrat members of Congress, including Chris Van Hollen, were denied entry to ISIS facility housing MS-13 gang members in Baltimore. So they're just sitting on the ground outside. Oh, this is too funny. So, what losers these people are. And I can tell you, I don't know Chris Van Hollen, but I know a lot about Kwesi Mfume. That's the black gentleman sit there. Kwesi Mfume in Baltimore is known as being quite the crook. Yeah, so that's a great picture because that describes the entirety of the Democrat Party. Nowhere to go, nothing to do. That's it. Meanwhile, he's over there doing $750 billion deals, and they're sitting outside of rooms like that. Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. What are we going to do about these people? All right, so everybody, let me go ahead. As I mentioned to you, Ashley and the kids are on a plane right now, heading down. Actually, they had to fly, get a connecting flight because they were on vacation earlier, and then they're going to be coming down here. They should be here tonight. Oh, the little babies, the little babies. So we're going to be here we'll see them tonight. But I will be able to get a show in tonight. So I'm going to cut now early so I can get ready for the 7 o'clock show. And in the 7 o'clock show, I've got a really good interview, 2 interviews, one with John Fredericks and one with J.J. Carell. The J.J. Carell interview, we're going to have to do when we do the jump over, because that's like a little touchy, little touchy. But I'll be able to get a second show in tonight. Don't miss it. And then the rest of the week, it's going to be one a day, one and done. Because I'm playing with the babies. My youngest one, who's 10, we were going to go see Jurassic Park new movie. And she's like, no Jurassic Park, Ashley said. I'm like, what's wrong with Jurassic Park? It's scary. No Jurassic Park. All right, so you got to pray for me because I got to go see the Smurfs. I got to go see the Smurfs tomorrow. That'll be too funny. But you know what? I'll be with them, so it'll be okay. I can't believe I'm going to go sit and watch Smurfs. So, hold on. There's only a couple supers in here, so we'll make this pretty quick. From Tommy, and unless my YouTube got stalled. But anyway, here we go. Tommy, thank you. Good friends. Good evening, friends. What's new? Tommy, hope you're feeling better. Hope you're feeling much better. Judy Branch, have a wonderful visit with Ashley and the grandkids. Oh, thank you very much. And Jen V, wow, it's been a long time since someone impressed me so much, but Bruce Leavell did so for me right now. Love this man. Great. I'm happy you liked him. I knew not a lot of people would know of him, but they would know about him once we started talking. Oh, just got the text from Delta that they are boarding their plane, so whew, everything looks good. All right, so we're going to go with the after party right now, and then I will see you guys tonight at 7 p.m. There's nothing Trump related coming in at 7 p.m. as of right now. So I just got pure news. Lots of news stuff at 7. All right, so see you guys then. Where's my button? Bam.
Thank you.